let's talk about the hidden dangers lurking in industrial electrical equipment. What you don't know about the rules here in Canada, well, it can be a lot more than just expensive. It can be genuinely dangerous. So let's dive right in.
I bet a lot of business owners look at their older equipment, the stuff that's humming along, seemingly doing its job day in and day out, and they ask this exact question. And it makes sense, right? If it's working, why would you possibly throw money and time at it? Well, this number is why. 6. In 2017, just 2 incidents involving aging equipment led to 6 people losing their lives. All of a sudden, if it ain't broke isn't a clever saying anymore, is it? It's a massive gamble. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we're going to tackle that if it ain't broke idea head on. Then we'll get into what smart maintenance actually looks like. After that, we'll uncover some of Canada's approval rules that you might not even know about, introduce a solution called SPE 1000, and finally, we'll lay out the very real legal and financial risks you could be facing.
All right, let's start right there. Let's talk about why that common sense phrase is actually a really dangerous way to think in an industrial setting.
See, here's the thing that people miss. The real problem isn't just how old a machine is. It's the slow, quiet process of degradation. We're talking about things you might not even see, like corrosion, erosion, or just parts wearing out over time. All these little things can add up silently until, one day, you have a sudden, catastrophic failure out of nowhere.
So, if this invisible decay is the real enemy, how in the world do you fight it? Well, that brings us to your best line of defense, having a truly proactive maintenance strategy. So let's look at the different ways you can go about this. First, there's the corrective approach. That's basically just waiting for something to break and then fixing it. Obviously, that's super high risk. A step up is preventive, where you schedule maintenance, every 6 months or so. Better, but still kind of a guess. But the gold standard? That's predictive. This is where you're actually assessing the real-time condition of your equipment to figure out exactly when it needs attention. It's the smartest and by far the lowest risk way to go. And this quote from an expert at WorkSafe BC just hits the nail on the head. Just because a machine is running doesn't mean it's safe. Those are 2 completely different things. The big takeaway here is that your entire maintenance focus has to be on safety first, not just keeping the lights on.
Okay, great. So your maintenance plan is top-notch. But there's this whole other layer, a huge hurdle that honestly a lot of businesses just don't see coming. And that's the legal and regulatory approval for the equipment itself. This quote, pulled from a real online chat between industry pros, points to a massive, and I mean massive, misconception. You might open up a control panel, see all those little UL or CSA stickers on the individual parts inside, and think, great, we're all good. But you're not even close.
And this slide really shows you why. See those marks on the left, the UL or CE logos? Think of those as approvals for the individual ingredients in a recipe. They're for the switch, the wire, the power supply. But Canadian law requires the entire finished machine, the whole cake, so to speak, to have its own approval. That's the label you see on the right. Those little component marks just don't cut it.
And the consequences for getting this wrong? They're immediate. An electrical inspector can walk in, and if they don't see that single overall approval mark on your machine, they have the legal authority to lock it out on the spot. That means it can't even be plugged in. We're talking instant downtime, lost production, and a major headache. So you're probably thinking, great, so what do I do now if I have a machine that's maybe imported or custom built or just doesn't have that certification? Well, thankfully, there's a practical solution for this exact problem. It's called SPE 1000. Now, I know that sounds super technical, right? But here's all it really is. It's an official on-site inspection and approval process. It was designed specifically for these kinds of situations, for equipment where getting that pre-market certification just wasn't possible. It's a recognized path to get your equipment compliant and safe.
So when is this the right move? Well, it's a perfect fit for a whole bunch of common scenarios. If you're dealing with low-volume equipment, if you've got prototypes, or if the machine is already installed at your facility, this is for you. Same goes for any equipment you've modified or stuff that's been imported from other countries with different standards. And the process itself? It's really quite straightforward. An accredited inspector comes to your site. They do a full visual inspection, run some simple, non-destructive tests to make sure everything's safe, and then they give you a detailed report.
Once any issues are fixed, they apply that official approval label right then and there. Done.
Okay, let's bring this all home and talk about what's really at stake here. Because this isn't just about following best practices. It's about the law and the very serious consequences of ignoring these rules.
As a business owner or a facility manager, the Canadian Electrical Safety Code puts the responsibility squarely on your shoulders. You have a legal duty to make sure all your equipment is operated safely, to maintain and document it, to assess risks, and to use qualified people for the job. It's not optional.
And if something goes wrong, if there's an incident and you're found to be non-compliant, the financial penalties are just staggering. A corporation can be fined up to $1 million.
But listen, it doesn't even stop at the company bank account. This is where it gets personal. Directors and officers of the company can be held personally liable. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars in fines and even the possibility of jail time. This is way beyond just an operational issue. Which brings us right back to this one critical question. Your machinery might be running just fine today, but when you factor in the invisible risk of degradation, the legal need for full equipment approval, and the massive penalties for getting it wrong, is your business truly safe? That's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? Thanks for your time.